Are you having issues with scraping together the necessary funds to put together your self-published book? Well, I'm going to give you some insights from a self-publishing expert, so you're going to want to make sure that you stay tuned. Welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale, and if you're new here and you want to learn how to publish your book and build your brand, make sure that you subscribe and turn your notifications on to get all of the latest content. So you want to get into self-publishing books, but the biggest hurdle you see right now is your discretionary expenses. So what exactly are you going to be able to do? I'm very fortunate that I've brought in Rob Archangel of Archangel Inc.
There are ways to publish at various different expense levels, but I think the goal really is to figure out what it is that is going to be appropriate for you, be honest with yourself, what's your discretionary income like? Also be honest about what sort of time commitment that you have. So sometimes people will say, hey, I'll just figure it out myself, and that's fine. If you want to do a good job though, do you have a couple of months to learn how to be a really good graphic designer? Probably in many cases actually more than that, years, and to figure out how to edit your book yourself, figure out how to do the Kindle formatting, how to create a paperback that's going to look decent and presentable and that people are going to want to actually have on their bookshelf. All of these things are going to be some degree of expense, whether that's time in figuring out how to do it or finding somebody who's going to be a good fit to do it for you. One of the things I think that is important to think about is what's your realistic budget and what's going to be possible. You can put something out that's going to be economical and low cost. How much quality do you want to sacrifice? Do you want to make sure, you definitely do want to make sure that it's going to be worthwhile for your customers because you only have one chance to make a first impression. So do your best to make it a good one. Somebody that picks up your book and says, this is kind of unprofessionally done. There are obvious typos, errors, the cover doesn't look so good, it's in the wrong genre, it's mislabeled somewhere. They're not going to say, "Oh, that person's probably figuring it out." They'll be able to. I'm gonna keep my eye on them and buy from them. Yeah, I'm gonna buy from them next time because I think there's some potential there. Maybe that'll happen, but probably not, and it's not good to bank on that likelihood. So my recommendation is start small, figure out what your goals are, and then budget for it. I would say in terms of triage, the things to really prioritize are, at least on the marketing end, getting a decent cover. Cover is going to be your biggest ambassador for the public, and it's going to be the way that people find you, decide, okay, maybe you're in the right genre, maybe you have the right title, but does it look like it's done by a grade schooler, or does it look like somebody who's actually serious and cares about their work and is willing to put the time and energy into it? And then the other thing that I would really recommend people to look into is editing. If you're producing content, you have to respect your readers. You have to make sure that you're providing something that's of value to them and that is going to speak to them in some way. And one of the quotes I really like is, "Pardon the length of this letter. I didn't have time to make it short." But the way I interpret it is, if you put something together that's sort of hastily done, that's not intentional, not well designed with the reader in mind, you're sending a signal to the reader that their time is less important than your time. You don't have the time or energy to make it easy and digestible and worthwhile and valuable and engaging and all of those things for them. In fact, they should spend their hours kind of parsing your words and figuring out what it was that you were trying to say and digging through the debris. And you don't want that. You want somebody to know they're important to you, you're keeping their interests in mind, and that's what's going to allow them to connect with you and decide that, you're actually worth spending a handful of dollars, several hours of my time potentially, because you care. You show that you care, you're providing them an abundance of value, and they're happy to provide some value in exchange. Those are the things that I would recommend first for budgeting. The reality is, not all of us have a ton of discretionary income. Figure out what you can do with the budget that you can manage. Again, be realistic, but be deliberate with yourself. Know what's your goal out of writing. What sacrifices are you willing to make? There are always going to be trade-offs, and so how are you going to weigh that appropriately? Are you willing to forego Starbucks for a few months? If you get your daily latte, sorry Starbucks fans. Are you willing to take the time to learn about formatting? If you don't want to hire a formatter, are you willing to license imagery so that you can, attain quality book covers and not have a cease and desist come your way because you've used something inappropriately? Yeah. There are some legal challenges and some issues that you want to make sure you have your ducks in a row for publishing and get all of that lined up. And then once you do that, proceed along and do the best that you can. At the other end of it, when you have a work in progress, give yourself permission to not have the perfect first book. The perfect book that's in your head is of no value compared to the pretty good but not perfect book that is actually out there making an impact in the world. You want to actually connect with people. One of the things I often recommend to authors is, at least in the drafting stage, give yourself permission or even insist that you're going to write a terrible first draft. Your first draft is not going to be your final draft, and your first book is not going to be your final book. Know that there are things that you're going to learn, and if you have that quality in mind, it will happen. As long as you actually care about your readers, you care about the people that you're trying to engage with and connect with, then my experience is authors, they'll go that extra mile even when they didn't realize that they had it in them to do it. And so keep that quality in mind, but don't stymie yourself. Don't stop yourself from putting out something that's actually going to make some impact, because some impact is better than no impact. And you just have to get out there and see. You might be surprised. The short story, the little aside that you thought was not valuable or important, might be the thing that people really resonate with. And humble yourself before that. There's an entire marketplace out there. There are entire groups of people for whom the throwaway video, the throwaway book, the throwaway something is actually going to be deeply important to them and really strike a chord. And know that, hey, it's an experiment. You do the best that you can. You do your research, you do your homework, and then you put it out there and you see what happens. And sometimes it surprises you what happens. Sometimes the thing that you think is a sure thing and a big hit just falls flat. And it takes a little bit of humility in the best sense to say, okay, well, you know what? I thought this was going to really move people, and it hasn't. And that's okay. I'll learn from it. I'll move on. I'll actually pay attention to what is striking a chord, and you keep with it. At the end of that process, you are continually improving and developing and finding something that you can be proud of. There's some thoughts on how to approach it when you're constrained from a budget perspective, and just kind of starting out and maybe find that you're in your own way to begin with.
Awesome. Very good insights. What do you folks think? I definitely would love to hear from you, so make sure that you drop your thoughts in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you share it with somebody else who would enjoy it too. Till later, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I'll see you soon.